Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you will be fine. Today's are my fifth lecture on the personal and the professional growth program. And the topic which I have chosen to discuss today is communication skill, which is one of the core importance in the professional growth. Communication skill. So, dear student, the objective of this lecture is that you would come to know about the importance of communication in the professional growth. So, I would like to tell you about the uh, outline of this lecture is that in today's lecture we shall discuss about the introduction, that what basically the communication is and what is the communication process, how the communication actually builds up, what are the barriers which usually hurts, creates a kind of obstacles in completing the communication, and how you can overcome these barriers, and how do audience or the listener or being the person who are being the more competent person, how could you make the communication more strengthened between you and your employees. So if I ask you about the word communication or the communication, so what does communication means to you? How would you relate communication with you? Any idea? Like, it is a very bookish thing which I'm going to tell you, that communication is derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share or to participate. Okay, but how do you take the communication? Exchanging of message? Yes, it is so. Verbally written? Yes, you are right. So communication is something which is not a new. When a child comes in this world with an actual process, yes, but you are right. Spoken is also a kind of communication, not a kind, but it is basically a communication. When the child comes into this world, the child, it begins to weep. So, when the child weeps, it means the child is communicating with the parents that it needs something. So they begin to nestle the mother. They begin to suckle. As if I give you some religious aspect of this communication, that will be that if it is said that if you want to talk to your creator or the Lord, offer prayer. And if you need that your Lord or the creator talks to you, read Holy Quran. It is a religious aspect. In the primitive ages or in the primitive time, when there was no social media, when there was no having the WhatsApp or the audio or the video calls, the people used to write or send the messages via with a messenger. Maybe you are familiar or not. In our graduation courses, we have a subject, uh, and it is mentioned over there, a piece of the string, a short story, that the person was beating the door while standing on the scaffold. He was gathering the people to let them know an important piece of news. It means that beating the drum and telling the other person about something new. It also a kind of communication. When our holy prophet started to spread the message of Islam, so what did he do? He began to write and send the message of Islam to the kings in the outskirts. It means that communication is not something new. It has its deep roots. Now the communication has changed. There are four basic communications: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And the two communications are active and the twos are passive. Speaking and writing, two are the active skills. How? Because when you speak, you are creating new sentences. When you're writing, you are structuring the new words, making new sentences. So you have a brainstorming, all your body organs are activated, and you are generating something new. While reading and listening are the passive skill. How? Because when you listen something, you are dependent upon the other persons to speak. When you read, you are bound to read, which is being given to you by the writer. Communication is a two-way process. Communication is completed when you respond back. Suppose, Abira, but I am talking to you and I am just talking to you, but you are not responding me back. At the one moment, there will be the full stop in my communication, because communication is completed when you get the responses. So here it is written that communication is a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding. So it means that if someone speaks and other person does not respond, so communication stops until unless other begin to respond accordingly, in which parties involved exchange information, news, ideas, and feelings. So basically, the communication is the sharing of ideas, mutual understanding, thoughts, experiences. Even the sharing of pain is also a kind of communication. Weeping is a kind of communication. Laughing is a kind of communication. Slapping someone is a kind of communication. Like, I do not like your way of expression, so I slapped because it was one. It was my response. Clapping is a kind of communication. Tapping on the person's back, that is a kind of communication. So communication now has changed its direction and changed its dimensions. So here is the communication process. It is very important for the personal and the professional growth. You can't groom, you cannot show your existence without the strong communication skills. In the many aspects in the fields of the life, the person who speaks good, who speaks to the point, whose communication is strong, whose communication skills are better, he or she will survive more in an organization. As we are discussing about the social and healthcare and regarding the professional growth, so Abira Bete, whenever you go for an interview, on the other side of the table, the interviewer will ask you the first question, that what about your communication skills? Like, it doesn't mean that how do you speak or what kind of the words you use while speaking. It means that do you have a command over the motivation? Do you know that how you would grab the attention of the people? Do you have an ability to write the letters? How much your reading skills is good? Like, if you give your 10 minutes, can you be able to present an assignment or given a presentation? So communication skills in the person, the professional growth is very much important. So look at the slides, Bete. First of all, there is a sender. Suppose I am a sender. I am sending you a message. So message can be of many types. Beta, it can be a verbal message and it can be a non-verbal message. In the later slide, we shall discuss it. Verbal means in which the words are involved, and the non-verbal in which the words are not involved, but your human emotion, gestures, expressions, clothes, the kind of a nail paint one is applying, or there are so many other things which communicate non-verbally. Now you are constructing a message. Encoding means that now you are constructing a message in the mind, and now using the different channels. It can be written, it can be oral, it can be verbal. You are exploding out the words, and now the message is transmitting by the different channels which you use, and that message will be decoded. Decoded means uncovered, exposed. I am speaking something, I am encoding, and when you listen the message, you will decode, you will uncover the message, and then the communication will be completed when you give me the feedback. Suppose, Abira, you do not give me the feedback, I will be stopped. If someone says that, Umaira, why you are not speaking? I will say, Abira is not responding to me. So if she will not give me the proper answer, how would I respond again? So communication is completed with giving the feedback. There is also one thing, that to whom you are speaking. Sender can be one, but the receivers can be a person or the group of the people. It can be a small group of people or it can be the large group of the people. Suppose in a concert, most of the singer says, "Are you listening me?" And the whole crowd unanimously said, "Yes, we are listening you." And then after taking the response, he or she began to sing again. Is it so? That is how the singing or these kind of the thing always need a kind of response. Like in a classroom, if you are sitting physically in the virtual classroom, the teacher will ask you, "Are you getting my message?" And the student will say, "Yes, ma'am, we are understanding your point." The teacher again begin her lecture. But if a student would not respond, So teacher will say, if you are not understanding, I will repeat the words again. It means that until or unless someone do not get response, they do not start their communication. There is also one thing also which is missed in the slide. That is gatekeepers. Gatekeepers, better keep it in mind. In the communication, the gatekeepers are very important. Gatekeepers are not the person. Gatekeepers means scrutiny. While like male generally speak when with each other, they used to have a very slang or the abusive language. They use a very unethical words with each other. And while speaking with the women, the male usually be very careful that they try to avoid the words they usually be very frankly speak with the other male member. This is called scrutiny. This is called gatekeeper, that we shall be very careful while speaking some unethical to the women, and sometimes the women also be very careful while speaking to the boss or while speaking to the best friends. So here is the communication process, bete. Look at the slide. Encoders is the sender who sends the message. So there is also a noise. Noise doesn't mean the noise, probably the crying of a child. Noise means that what are those barriers which are creating problem in understanding or delivering the message. So in the later slides, we shall discuss in detail. So look at this. This is the sender who is sending encoding, like preparing the message. They are sending, there will be the different barriers. Now the message have been received to you. You decode the message, and after understanding the message, you will become encoder or the sender. You will prepare your message and you will give the feedback to the sender. If the feedback is appropriate, the sender will respond. If the feedback is not inappropriate, the sender will not respond. There are the different channels through which the communication can be much better. So look at this. It can be face to face. You can communicate with each other online, via the video channels, through the emails, telephone, letters, speech, or you can say diction. I'm unable to understand this word. Voicemail or the different media. So different medias can be used to convey the other person's message. So now, bete, moving towards the barriers. What are the barriers which create an obstacles in completing the communication cycle? Number one is the semantic barrier, physical barrier, organizational barrier, emotional barrier, personal barrier, technological barrier, cultural barrier. Now we shall discuss these barriers one by one. Bete, are you understanding? Very good, bete, if you are understanding. Now look at this communication barriers. In the health and the social care, bete, the communication is very important. And if there will be the language barrier, it will be difficult for you to develop, create, and deliver your message. So, number one is the language problem. If I am living in an area where the people are illiterate or unable to understand the English language properly, and if I will develop my message in an English language or the language which they are unable to understand, so my message will be wasted. Suppose if you are delivering a message to a community which are highly literate, but your vocabulary is this much poor and you are unable to speak a single sentence in English language, your message is wasted. If you have a poor knowledge of grammar, like grammar nowadays is very important. You must know that what is the present, past, and the future. If you are unable to construct a message by the proper usage of the verb, and if you are not, if your grammar is poor, your message will be wasted. Poor pronunciation, it matters a lot. Like the Britishers and the Americans have a different pronunciation, while we people living in the third world countries do not focus on the accents. We just focus on delivering the message, and somehow it is more important that other person is understanding your message. And if you run after the accent, your message will be wasted. So I do not believe on this. Poor handwriting. Everyone is not born a painter or born with a good handwriting. It is something which one's developed with the experiences, with their learning. But if your handwriting is bad, like it is a social stigma that the doctors and the person with the literature, they do have the very bad handwriting. Yes, it is so. So bad handwriting sometimes develop a very negative image of a person, and we do not understand the other person's writing. Being a teacher, I used to check number of mark number of papers, students paper, and I see the students with the good handwriting grab more number, and the students with the bad handwriting, I unable to understand that what he or she is writing. So I used to cut the marks, because when I am unable to understand that what is being written on the paper, how could I mark them or evaluate them? Number two is the physical barriers. Now, physical barriers are more important. If you are standing on the one corner of your house and your sister is standing on the other corner of your house, and if there is a kind of noise outside the home, like it can be the traffic horns, a kind of music, or the high volume television voice, your message sometimes will be unheard on the other side. So they can misunderstand your message. So this is called noise. Poor timing. If you are delivering the message when it is not required, so it is a uh, physical barrier. If you are in a long distance, standing on a very far from the receiver, you would not understand the message. It will be create a noise, or it will be develop a hurdle in completing the communication process. Inadequate or overload of information. Nowadays, I have observed that the children like you, Abira, like you are so young, that you people try to speak in a long, bit fast speed, and with the loaded of information, that the people like me who are old unable to understand that what you are saying. So this kind of information which is overloaded is also the wastage of your communication. Organizational barrier. There are so many barriers which are relevant to the organization, but let me deliver it. Organization rules and the regulations. Many of the organizations are overpacked with their rules and the regulations. Like they used to burdenize their employees with the rules and the regulations. It also become a barrier because employees are fed up with the daily changing of the policy. Number two, hierarchical relationship. If the boss is having a good relationship with the employees, so he or she will communicate in a good environment. But if there will be the lot of hurdles of the lower employees to reach at the higher management, that will create a hurdle, and their communication gap will also create a lot of problems on the both hands. Poor choice of channels. Suppose if your boss is not available on the phone and you try to communicate by sending them the messages, your message will be wasted. But on the other hand, if you will write the letter, that will be the good choice. So poor choice of the channel on approaching your management, that can also create a kind of hurdle. Emotional barrier. Oh, the generation nowadays are facing lot of emotions. They used to cry, they have lot of problems. I think the present generation is more occupied or more emotional than than my generation. We used to handle the problem by ourselves, but nowadays the generation of present age usually use the social media, so they try to solve their issues on the social platforms. Selective perception. People nowadays expect more a lot from the other person, like the one thing which if you overcome on it, try to expect less from the other side, because it is an expectation which hurts a lot. Why you expect a lot from the other person? Expect low, expect less, and you will be happy in life. Number two, poor listening. Nowadays, the students, being a teacher, I have seen that students are bad listeners. They try to digest or they think that I must give them a syrup, that better take this syrup and the topic will be understood by you. Students are poor listeners. They never prefer to listen. Yes, better, you are right. Less expectations and more satisfaction. Egotism. Oh my God. Egotism. Now our students are more egoistic. They think that now we are young, now we are grown up, and we know what to decide. We don't need your advices. I'm sorry. We don't need your experiences and your poor experience knowledge. So please. So this egotism is running a lot in the veins of new generation. Emotions. Oh, we all are the slaves of our emotions. Even the generation of the present age, they are running after the emotions. They live in the emotions. Their days are they are opening their eyes with the emotions. They are sleeping with the emotions. So emotions are overcome on their nerves, That is why they can't even listen to their teachers or the advices of the parents. And that is why students of nowadays are inclined more towards the self-immolation, or you can say the suicide, because they are the slaves of their emotions. Personal barriers. Oh, I think that is this personal barrier means you have a lack of time. Nowadays we prefer to spend on time sitting on the sofa by using the scrolling the mobile phone is much more important than listen to the parent. So lack of the time is one thing that now it has become a communication gap between the children and the parents. Number two is lack of confidence. Most of the students lack confidence because they never because they prefer to listen instead of speaking. So it is also a hurdle. Lack of proper communication channel. Nowadays, the parents and the children both have the communication gap. They don't know, they never share with each other. That is the lack of proper communication channels, also developing a gap between them. This is called superiors. Insubordinate means the people who are working as an employee in an organization. Sometimes they never prefer to talk to their top management. They say that it is useless, it is the wastage of time. Secondly, fear from superior. If you are fear that if you talk to your boss and they will terminate you from the job, it's also become a kind of barrier, and you would not express your emotions, feelings, or kind of complaints to your bosses. Cultural barriers. Oh, Sonia Gandhi once said that there is no need to invade on Pakistan because our culture is so much superior that people of Pakistan will adopt our culture and they will become the part of India. So now see that cultural sometimes barriers also become a big hurdle in communicating to the other person. The people of different religious tenets, the people of the different religious cultures, the people who are following the different rituals, they are different behaviors, and they are from the different groups, and that becomes a hurdle in communication. If your religious beliefs are different, if your body language is different, so it becomes a barrier in communication. Technological barriers. The people of my generation are less technological. They are not friendly with the new technology than Abira, the people like you, because you people are up to dated. I have a less technology knowledge. That is why I do not argue with the person who have a command over the iPhones or the different technologies. Technical noises, sometimes I also do not deal with these technical noises, and that becomes unable, and I became unable to respond if there will be a any technological communication. Suppose if Abira, you begin to talk to me about the iPhones, if you begin to talk to me about the new technologies, 4G, 5G, or 7th generations, I will not respond you because I have a less knowledge regarding that. So these technological barrier also make some persons so on the low stage. Audience, how would you analyze an audience being on one side of the communication? Like audience is basically a big group of receivers. Audience analysis is a task include assessing the audience to make sure the information provided. Like radio is one of the way that is how you would communicate. When I was doing the radio, I have a program in which I used to interview to the students who were toppers of their program. So what I do that I used to ask the question that was unable by the other social groups to ask to them. So that is how I was addressing to the other students that motivation, that was one kind of motivation that you can learn a lot from the experiences of others. So you can analyze the audience by communicating to them. Defining an audience requires the consideration of many factors such as age, culture, and knowledge of the subject. You can develop your audience like if a child of 6 to 10 years they prefer to watch Cartoon Network. This is one way of communication. The child of 11 to 18 years of age, they are in the developing puberty age. They will go more around the Bollywood or the Hollywood, listen to the songs. They will become slaves of the emotions. They have more heroes. They begin to follow them. So this is the developing age. So yeah, their preferences will be different. The oldies like me, they would prefer to go listen to the news, listen to the political debates, run and idealizing some political heroes or the religious heroes. So that is how we analyze the audience generally. Now moving towards the kinds of communication. So listen to them, listen to it so keenly so that you may prepare your own notes. Verbal is a kind of communication in which the words are used. It can be of your language, it can be of your preferences, that what vocabulary you are using. The second is non-verbal communication. As I told previously, that non-verbal means in which the words are not involved. Then what involved? Your gestures, your emotions. Gestures means that fist is the symbol of power. If you begin to hit someone, so you will just give them the gesture of this. It means that you are not hitting, but you are giving them the gesture that if you do so, I will slap or hit you. Non-verbal communication is also a variety. The child like you, Abhira, if you will be in a happy mood, you will wear a very striking color clothes like orange, yellow, green. It means that you are happy. But nowadays, if a person or a boy or the girl is wearing black, browns, or the dull colors, and if we ask them what happens, they said we are passing through the very glooming days. It means that during the saddened days, or if you are not happy, you begin to wear the dull colors, and if you are very unhappy, and if you are happy, you begin to wear the striking color. So one can judge the other person, like the personality. And analysts usually say that one we can analyze the other person on the basis of the nail color they apply, on the basis of the shoes they wear, on the type of clothes, the type of hairstyle, the jewelry the women are wearing. So there are the variety of ways in which the person can be judged, and it is called non-verbal communication. We can identify the person from the different culture or from the different religions on the basis of their attire. If you are wearing a turban, so you can be from the different province or from the different religions. So non-verbal communication is of different types. Formal communication, a communication which is done formally in the offices, in the lecture rooms, in the front of your bosses. This is formal. Informal communication, a kind of chit chat which we done with our friends, with our family, with our chums. Horizontal and the vertical communication. Horizontal is a kind of communication which is usually been taken place the people of same age group. Like Kabira, if you have 3 or 4 friends, the communication which you will do in the same classroom or with the people of same age group is called horizontal communication. But the communication which is done with your bosses, with your executive directors, that is the vertical communication, which is done from the bottom to top. And if they are responding back, so that is the top to bottom communication. So here it is, non-verbal communication. Time also speaks. Like in Pakistan, if the dinner time is 7 p.m. and sometimes the people usually come at 8 or 9. It means they think that if we are going late, we will be more protocols and we are the more VIP person. But as far as the America or the Britishers are concerned, uh, if your dinner time is 7 p.m., so you are not allowed to come at 7:30 or 6:30. You must be there in time. So that is how your arrival in time communicate non-verbally that you are a person of competence. Silence also plays a very essential role. In Pakistani culture, silence means yes. Like in traditionally in Pakistan, if you ask a woman that are you agreeing marrying with the person, if she will be silent, parents will say, oh, her silence means that she is saying yes. Maybe she in the protest she is silent. It can be, but in the different cultures, silence means that you must be very silent. Kinexis means body movements, your gestures, your emotions in the classroom. Proximity means nearness and the distances. We have the 4 bubbles in life. We are very close to our friend, and the next bubble we are developed with our family. The next bubble we develop with our relatives, and the last bubble is the social. So we are more proximate or more in contact with our friends, but we are develop a large distance with our social people. Paralinguistic, the way we are speaking, the tone with which we are speaking, if we are speaking with the high pitch, it means we are arrogant. If we are speaking with the low pitch, it means we are very humble. So our intonation, our pitch, our volume decide that what kind of a message I wanna communicate. So this was all from today's lecture in which we discuss verbal, non-verbal communication, but there is a lot to discuss about it. Inshallah Ta'ala, in the next lecture, we shall discuss in detail regarding the communication, because communication does not step that how you can develop effective communication, what are how the reading and writing what and listening can be the good part of making the communication more strengthened. So if you have any question regarding with the communication, you can ask. Okay, bete, vertical communication is of two types. Listen it. Top to bottom and bottom to top. If you want to convey your message to the high management, it is bottom to top communication. And if your bosses want to communicate with you, that will be top to bottom communication. Understand?